Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit!
Welcome, everybody, to today's discussion. It's actually billed as a debate, but it's more of like an informal conversation. You all remember Dr. J. Garfield. We hosted him on the Global Skeptics podcast, and he had some interesting views, though he was a bit of a skeptic of my Cartesian approach, I guess, in some things. He is the professor at Smith University. He is especially fond of Eastern philosophy that he studies, Nagarjuna and Tibetan philosophical positions, and he has been active in the field studying epistemology, he with a lean to naturalism, and he was, and some, I believe, even some ventures in the philosophy of mind. He was a really great guest and one of the most popular ones in our episodes of the Global Skeptics. And you all know Darth Dawkins. He advocates for a different kind of epistemology, but we'll get to that. All right, Dr. Garfield, let's start with you. 2-minute introduction. What's your view on epistemology, the existence of God, naturalism, and what we can know? Now, really briefly, go ahead.
Gosh, that's a bunch of big questions, right? So, as an epistemologist, I tend to be anti-foundationalist, and I have a kind of conventionalist view about epistemology, that our epistemic practices are human natural practices like any other, that we can study them, we can work on them, that they're very important, that they help us navigate the world, and that they're self-correcting. I do not believe in anything like an Abrahamic God. And I guess those are my quick answers to your questions.
That's fine. Okay, Darth, we know your position. 2-minute introduction before we jump into the open conversation. Darth?
He's muted.
There we go. I have my mic off.
Okay.
I'm a fundamentalist, Bible-believing Christian. I hold the evangelical theology. I debate against atheists, agnostics, and anybody who opposes the Christian worldview. And I take a biblical presuppositional approach to apologetics.
And your brief thoughts on epistemology? What kind of
how we know things?
Yeah.
We only know things because of how God created us to know things. God made us to know some things innately, and other things we can know through discursive reasonings.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so we shall jump into the open conversation. All right, let's go. So, Darth, do you want to start, Darth, with the question? Or?
Yeah, would you prefer I call you Dr. Garfield?
No, everybody calls me Jay. If somebody calls me Dr. Garfield, I figure they're a bill collector.
Okay. So, are you a strong atheist, where you deny that there's any ultimate creator God, or you kind of the kind of atheist that just withholds judgment?
I'm an actual atheist. I'm not an agnostic. I do not believe that there's any reason to think that there is a creator God, and probably lots of good reason to think that there isn't.
Okay, so what is your reasoning that there is no ultimate creator God?
Well, for one thing, the best physics tells us that the universe began in a big bang and has been constantly expanding. If we believe that there was a creator God, we'd presumably find some evidence for that in the universe. On the other hand, we don't. Everything that science tells us about the world is utterly consistent with a universe that comes into being through natural processes and evolves through natural processes. I think that problems about theodicy and the consistency of the attributes of an Abrahamic God, that is omnipotence, omnibenevolence, and omniscience, are pretty catastrophic. So I've never seen a decent argument for the existence of a God. I don't generally believe in things for which there are no arguments.
Okay, so your position is that there's no evidence for God. How did you determine that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God? Have you determined what is ultimate and that it's not God?
I don't even actually understand that question. I'm not interested in anything that's ultimate. I'm not quite sure what you would even mean by that. When I
Well,
look at
God, ultimate means that which is eternal and the ground of the reason why anything at all exists,
yeah,
and the
but
basis for all possible. Can I finish?
yeah, of course.
Okay, so I'm just simply defining the term, right? So God would be which is eternal and the source of all possibility of whatever is, can be, or cannot be. So if you believe that God is not, then what you're saying is what is ultimate and the source of all possibility is not a mind. Have you then decided what is ultimate, the ground of all being, the basis of possibility and impossibility, and that it's not God?
I don't see any reason to believe that there is anything that satisfies that description. That is that something that is the ground of all being, that is universal and so forth. It would be to me as though somebody said, hey, do you know what the highest natural number is? And I'd said, no. And they say, well, given that there's a number bigger than every natural number, there's got to be one that's the highest that you can count to. And I'd say, no, that's just a mistake. We can think of every natural number as being finite. Similarly,
Yeah, I think that's apples and oranges right there. So your position is that you do not believe that there's anything fundamental, singular, imposing what is, can be, or cannot be. So
that's
in your
exactly
views, all right, so is anything impossible, Doctor or Jay?
Well, it depends exactly what modality of possibility you mean. Do you mean logical impossibility, mathematical?
No, I'm talking about is anything impossible at all?
Well, as I say, you haven't defined the term impossible, so I don't really know.
I mean, that there's anything that cannot be. Is there anything at all that cannot be?
All right, so what you've done is replace the word impossible with cannot, and I'm still asking you what modality you're talking about.
I'm talking about, is there any state of affairs,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that cannot exist? Any propositional truth, that it has a truth value of true, that it cannot exist? Is there anything that's impossible? It's a simple question.
Well, it's actually an empty question. So let me just ask you to be a little bit more precise. I'm happy to answer your question. I just want to know what modality you are using when you talk about possibility and impossibility. There's a big difference.
Is there any state of affairs that cannot be? Can I jump to the moon right now, Jay?
Do you mean physically? Do you mean logically? Do you mean biologically?
No. Can I physically jump to the moon right now?
Oh, physically.
Is that possible?
Physically, I'm pretty sure you can't, because the laws of physics make it impossible for something with your kind of mass and strength to jump to the moon. That's a physical.
Are the laws of physics eternal and absolute within themselves?
There's no reason to believe that. I mean, laws of physics describe the universe as it's evolved right now. They may or they may not be. That's something that I really don't know.
Okay, so how do you know that the uniformity of nature is real?
I don't.
Okay, but you're asserting it as though it is.
I said nothing whatsoever about the uniformity.
You said the laws of physics. The laws of physics would be the same thing as saying the uniformity of nature.
I did not say that. You said that.
Yeah. How would you differentiate the uniformity of nature from the laws of physics? What difference would that make?
The uniformity of nature is the thesis that the fundamental laws that govern the world do not change at all and have been the same for all past and into the future. That's a question that is about time and about space, about the extent of the universe, both temporally and spatially. When you asked about the laws of physics, I took you to mean the laws of physics as we know them right now. That is the laws. How do
you know that?
Shush, let me finish as well. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, guys. Stop.
I'm honestly trying to have an intelligent conversation with you.
Guys.
If you keep interrupting me, it's not going to work.
All right.
Well, I was told we were going to have a back and forth conversation.
Okay, guys. Okay. Now, Jay's going to finish his.
You were answering at length, and I'm asking a question of qualification.
Okay. All right. Anyways, Dr. Garfield, let's continue with the point. Okay.
Yeah. I will resolve not to interrupt Darth if he resolves not to interrupt me, because I'm not interested in a shouting match. I'm interested in a conversation.
I'm not shouting.
All right. So go ahead, Dr.
Garfield. There is a distinction between talking about uniformity. When we ask if something is uniform, that's a spatial or temporal or a spatio-temporal question. So normally when people talk about the uniformity of nature, They're talking either about the homogeneity of natural laws across cosmic time or across cosmic space. On the other hand, when we ask what the laws of physics are, the presumption is that we're asking about what the laws of physics are in this epoch. Now, they may be uniform across space and time, they may not be. I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay, so what secures that there are laws at all? Where'd you get that from? Are you doing it inductively?
The laws of nature as we know them are things that we discover empirically and verify experimentally. And that's what science is all about, actually.
Verify. Okay, so are conclusions in science provisional, or does science prove things?
Science, all conclusions, all empirical conclusions are provisional because they're all, in principle, able to be refuted by future evidence. And as we know, science is something that progresses. So things that we might have believed at one time, we come not to disbelieve and to replace at other times. That's because
so everything you believe now could be falsified tomorrow.
That is exactly right.
Okay, so then your claim that there are just laws of physics isn't necessarily true. It could be wrong, right?
Absolutely. I never claim necessity. Only
okay.
Well-founded.
Okay. So you still haven't demonstrated to me, okay, that you said you don't accept that there is anything ultimate, right? Well, how do you know that in fact nothing is ultimate? Are all events, including what you call laws of nature, spontaneous occurrences, since they're not being instituted and secured by anything that's singularly ultimate? How do you know that there's not something singularly ultimate? How do you know that?
Because there's absolutely no evidence for anything like that. And if there was, presumably there would be some evidence for it. If somebody could provide me with any evidence for a kind of transcendent ultimate reality, I would be the first one to accept it.
That's an argument from ignorance, Jay. Because something is deemed to be false until and if it could be shown to be true. You said there's no evidence, okay? So what you're saying is that all the facts that you're acquainted with, in your mind, you've determined that they don't necessitate an ultimate. How did you determine that all the facts that you're acquainted with are independent of something that's ultimate? Have you determined that?
Well, I have never seen any reason that anything that I believe about the world necessitates, implies, is explained by anything that is transcendent to the world. And
that's not an answer to my question.
What that means is that you're proposing effectively a fifth wheel, something with no explanatory force at all.
You haven't answered the question.
And with no evidence in its favor.
Yeah.
So for that reason.
Yeah, can we have a conversation here instead of you lecturing me?
Guys.
Okay.
Right.
I was told that we were going to have a conversation here. Right?
Darth.
I mean, I certainly respect your academic credentials. Okay. But I thought we were going to have an interaction here instead of you just lecturing me. Now, you will either believe.
Right. So, Dr. Garfield, do you feel like?
Yeah, don't mute me.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're going to mute me, I'll leave. Okay.
Right,
I'm being very respectful. Okay. I just don't want to be a monologue too. I want to have a conversational interaction here.
All right.
Now, Jay.
Okay, we will. But
just
a second, Dr. Garfield, how do you prefer to proceed?
I'll proceed however you would like. Quite frankly, I would just like this to be a respectful, coherent conversation. And if Mr. Dawkins is capable of that, I'm happy to continue. If he's not,
if you mute me again, I'm gonna leave. I'm being entirely respectful. What I've asked, I was told ahead of time that it would be a conversational interaction, not a Q&A where I get monologue. Okay. Now, Jay, you will either believe that all facts derive and depend on something ultimate, or you will not. You've expressed that you do not believe that all facts derive from a singular ultimate. Okay? So that means that you've decided that all facts exist independently of themselves instead of something that is ultimate. How did you determine that that's the case, Jay?
I never said that facts exist independently of themselves. I don't even know what that would mean.
Why do facts exist if they don't derive from an ultimate? Why do any facts exist at all?
Well, I think that each fact exists because of other facts that give rise to it, that cause it. So, for instance, I think that it rained today because there were a lot of clouds and enough humidity for those clouds to condense and the rain to fall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need.
And where does it end?
I don't need a deity to explain that.
I didn't ask you that. Where does it finally end? Okay, do you end up with brute facts where you have proximate fact that's explained by a proximate fact and then another one? Do you end somewhere to explain all these facts?
I don't see any reason why one should. I'm not a foundationalist. I don't believe there are an end to explanation.
Okay, so there's no ultimate reason why anything happens?
That's right.
Okay, so then you've now destroyed your ability to speak intelligibly because there's no rhyme or reason why anything is or why it happens. Okay, because it all will be brute. Okay, no, it is not a non sequitur, because what you're espousing is that when you look at facts and their proximate relations, when you finally stop and you say proximate fact A is because of proximate fact B because of proximate fact C, your last proximate fact will be a brute fact. It just simply exists without any further explanation.
No, because I don't believe there is a last proximate fact.
Do you believe in the causal principle? Do you believe in the causal principle that there's a cause and effect between events?
There are many different versions of causal principles. What I do believe is that every event has a cause. I'm not sure
and what imposes that? And why is that? Is that just simply spontaneous, or is there something imposing that?
I'm not sure what the question is. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to know is why you believe anything at all. Finally, you don't believe in anything ultimate, so there is nothing finally making anything what it is. Now, your position is you gave me Big Bang cosmology. Why there's no God? The Big Bang is just simply the latest popular paradigm. Big Bang cosmology does not get you that there's no God. I think you're aware of that. Number two, appealing to the physical world around you because you don't have a reason to believe in God, it doesn't follow from that there is not a God. Appealing to incredulity doesn't get you that there's no God. Now, if you're going to say that there's no God, you're going to have to defend one of two positions: that you know what is ultimate and that it's not God and that it's impersonal, or you're going to have to tell us how you know that nothing at all is ultimate at all. Do you know either of those two scenarios, Jay?
Look, let me ask you a question, Darth. Which God am I supposed to believe in? Is this Shiva you're interested in?
Okay, so now what you're baiting and switching. Okay, when I talk with atheists and I ask this very same question, they bait and switch. You're baiting and switch. I'll repeat the question again. When you say there's no God, we're talking about a mind that is ultimate, the source of all possibility. If you're going to say that that does not exist, you have to give one of two possible answers. Either that what is singularly ultimate is not a mind and you know what that is, or that you know that nothing can or is ultimate. Now, can you defend either one of those two scenarios?
I have no reason to believe that there is anything ultimate. And so no reason to believe.
That's an appeal to incredulity.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Excuse me, do you think it would be possible for me to finish a thought before Darth interrupts?
Yeah, I'm not talking.
Yeah, Darth, I'm muting you because it's time for Dr. Garfield to finish. Okay, Dr. Garfield, continue.
Okay. It's a pretty fundamental principle of reasoning that if you've got something that for the existence of which you have no evidence and that explains absolutely nothing, either in reason or experience, that there's no reason to believe in such a thing. That, for instance, is why I don't believe in Satan.
It doesn't follow that there's not a God.
Darth. Sorry, Dr. Garfield.
We're having a conversation here.
Okay, but no, you can't interrupt. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not interrupting.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Garfield.
I think that we've just lost.
No, we haven't lost him. I've just put him in timeout. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
If you do that again, I'm just going to.
Sorry, continue. I apologize for that
You know
childish
what?
behavior.
He really is childish, and I'm thinking it would be nice to talk with somebody who would behave politely and reasonably.
Yeah, Darth, this is your last chance. Are you willing to stop interrupting?
Yeah, this will be your last chance. If you need.
Sorry, Darth wouldn't behave. So, anyways, I hope this experience didn't put you too much off. I mean, I hope you don't feel like your time was wasted.
I don't know. I mean, I have plenty of time. I just hope your viewers' time wasn't wasted. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We had a bunch of viewers. I apologize. I mean, I hoped that this was go well, and
The viewers want to ask questions.
all right. So we'll move on to the viewers' questions. So let's see.
By the way, did you get that Tom Rabbit?